Everybody knows Minecraft. You punch wood, mine stone, kill blazes and defeat a dragon. The one problem with that is that it's boring. I mean, like, how many times have you watched Dream scurry onto the end and just beat the shit out of that dragon? Now you see, now here's what I had in mind. What if I did that, but backwards? Yeah, I know, I'm pretty insane, or at least that's what my parole officer tells me. First things first, all I've got to do is beat the dragon with absolutely nothing. I mean, it sounds easy, right? No, it doesn't. It just doesn't sound easy. I have to do things in a very particular way here, otherwise my life will be hell. So with that in mind, I create a new world, give it a silly little name, you know, whatever. Put it on hard mode because I'm actually psychotic. And it's gonna be a long day, isn't it? Not a great start, not great. But on the bright side, it's only downhill from here, so really I didn't have it that bad. To start things off, I get to punch through this wall with my bare hands. Very, very slowly. It's in the safety of this little bunker that I'm actually able to farm ender pearls because, otherwise things don't go so well. It's also a good place for me to just stow away and kind of reconsider my life choices. Yeah, what am I doing here? Let me give you the rundown. There are 10 of these obsidian pillars with end crystals on top, and I somehow have to break those. Now, if you're a normal person, you just use a bow and arrow and shoot them, but I'm not a normal person. You see, it's much more complicated when there's no way for me to collect blocks or use any projectiles. The only resource I can gather is ender pearls. So the plan is to get at least 12 pearls, throw them to the top of every tower, break the crystals, go back down and slowly punch the ender dragon to death. Now, the problem is, unlike Dream's pearl rates, mine aren't 100. And you know, when you have no food, time is kind of the essence. Starving to death is a real problem. Now, as far as I can see, there is literally no way around this, so I just need to hope and pray that I don't die before I get enough pearls. And clearly I pissed God off at some point because he just did not give me what I needed. I starved to death so many times. But eventually, after a lot of hard work and dedication, I got what I needed. Now, I somehow need to use these ender pearls to destroy all 10 end crystals without blowing myself up in the process. Instead, I turn my attention to one of these caged crystals. What I can do is throw a pearl up to one of them, break through the wall... Bitch. And break through the wall so that... This motherfucker. And break through the wall so that I can destroy the crystal without taking any damage. What's also great about these is that I can collect the iron bars that drop from the explosion and use them as building blocks. But aside from building funny Among Us statues, these iron bars really don't do much for me. Yeah, this is the part where everything kinda starts to break down. The major problem I have is with my health, and it's not just because I have early onset dementia. There's no real way for me to be able to go from crystal to crystal without taking any damage, and there's no way for me to regenerate any of it. If I throw a pearl, then I'm gonna take damage, and if I try and bridge across, well, yeah, I'm a little bit short. It's pretty hopeless, right? There's no way for me to get to the top of every single pillar without dying in the process, and if I could die, that would kinda defeat the purpose of the challenge. That being said, there is technically a way around it, but it's not pretty. Obsidian is a block in the hit 2011 game Minecraft. It's notorious for having an extremely long mining time. Even with a diamond pickaxe, it takes about 9 seconds to mine. You wanna know another cool fun fact about obsidian? It's what these pillars are made of. Now, you probably know where I'm going with this by now. You think I'm gonna dig to the top of every single one of the pillars, break the crystals, and be done for the day. And while, yeah, you would be right to think that, things are obviously a bit more complicated. I think it's time that we do some maths. Let's say that each pillar is roughly 40 blocks tall. Now for me to reach the top of any of those pillars, I'd have to break about 3 times as many blocks. Times that number by all 10 of the pillars and that comes out at about 1,200 blocks that I'm gonna have to break. Now times that by the 250 seconds that it takes to break a single block of obsidian with your fists. And you get 300,000 seconds. Or in terms of hours, Yeah, that's a lot of hours. That is well over 3 days straight of game time. It would have to take someone completely unhinged to even attempt to do this. Alright, let's go. Now, I must admit there definitely were better ways I could have been spending my time. I mean, breaking obsidian in a minimized Minecraft tab whilst watching Toontown Let's Plays in the background is not the most effective use of resources. But I powered through with it, because at the end of the day, the one thing more important to me than good grades is content. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I'll admit I did everything in my power to save time. I mean, I created so many backups because I was not gonna let myself die and lose hours of progress. At least not after the first time.
What the fuck?
It reached a point where I would tape down my left click button and just let the game run. Though I did actually have to move my mouse every 10 minutes or so, I know, it's a hard life. Now I'll come clean, it did eventually reach the point where I had to switch the difficulty to normal mode because otherwise I would have just starved to death again. But come on, cut me some slack, man. And I mean, even though I was doing this whole digging to the top of the pillars thing, that didn't make the ender pearls and iron bars completely obsolete. Whilst I couldn't afford to do it for every single pillar, I still could throw a couple pearls, place a couple bars, just to speed things up a little bit. And so with that, I eventually made it up 1 tower, then 2 towers, then 3, and then 4, and then you kinda get the idea. You know how to count, okay? I made it up all the towers. And with that, the hard part's out of the way. Now all I've got to do is the other hard part. I still face the problem of having to punch the ender dragon to death. But whilst it's still really monotonous, it's honestly not as bad as you might think. The ender dragon has 200 hit points, or 100 hearts, which means with crits it only takes about 100 hits to kill the dragon. Don't get me wrong, that's still a lot of hits, but it's only a small percentage of my viewers who are subscribed. If you enjoy my content, please feel free. In comparison to the time it took to break all of those pillars, this is really nothing. The main problem is, you know, not dying in the process. But a lot of time and several lines of coke later, I was ready. Hours and hours of progress all came down to this. One final... Ah, God, that's awkward. Yeah, well, good thing I created a backup. I went back in and gave him a punch. There you go, he's dead. Now, originally this video was going to go over the whole game, going through the end, and then the nether, and then finally to the overworld to break a tree. But if I'm being honest with you, the rest of it really isn't that interesting. I mean, the nether's a pain because I'm stuck on half a heart, and any piglin that sees me will immediately end me and my entire bloodline. But what it eventually comes down to is just searching for enough ruined portals to build one of my own and piece the fuck out of there. And then from there, I go to the overworld, hope that I don't spawn in a cave anyway, cry a little, dig up, seek out the nearest tree, and job done. So, can you beat Minecraft backwards? Yeah, I mean, I guess so, but why the hell would you ever want to do that?